Good evening. Welcome to Instructional Design from the Ground Up. It's our first and third Tuesday live session, and Denise and I are so darn happy you're here. And if you're not here, you get to watch us in post-production, which is even more fun, but it's not quite as much fun because you can't chat and irritate with us. So what we're doing tonight is Stump the Chump, which my daughter-in-law Jess says we should call it, and I agree. And we're going to go through some fun stuff tonight. And anybody who joins us can jump in and ask us questions in the chat or whatever you'd like to do. But we're going to continue with Denise's course design project and poke around with some questions and see if anybody shows up. If not, then I'm going to sing a medley of my greatest hit.
Oh, no. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a very
Yeah.
good singing voice. No
Well,
doubt. You're musically inclined.
I've got my Marshall half stack and I'll get my Rickenbacker 310 out and it'll be beautiful music.
I got my keyboard. I have my keyboard.
Oh, well, okay. Well,
Not quite
I think
situated correctly here, but
no, that's fine. I don't know if we're ready for Vegas yet, but certainly we can irritate people in your local Holiday Inn. So you let us know what you'd like us to do, and at your own peril if you don't talk to us. So, Denise's project. Why don't you give them a little bit of background for those who haven't seen the other? It's 3 other sessions we've done. Just give
yes.
them a background on our Design Your First Course in ISD project videos, which is
hmm
where we're at.
That's right. So we've done 3 episodes in that course, Design Your First Course Using ISD series. And if you want to be able to look at those originally first 3 videos, they are on a playlist on our YouTube channel. So just go ahead and feel free to play around with that. We would love that, and we would love for you to comment on those videos. I am in the process. The reason we started this was because I told Chuck I have this idea for a course I want to teach. I want to design and then maybe teach. Because I had a situation happen this past summer where I was helping to host a whole bunch of online events for an organization. It was a month-long extravaganza of panels, discussions,
Extravaganza. I love that.
presentations, author readings, just a whole bunch of online situations happening. And we had moderators that were not trained. And some of the sessions, because of that, let's just say could have been improved upon. I'll just say that because I think every moderator gave it their best, but they didn't have the proper training. So in a way, I feel like myself as part of the organization, we failed the moderators because I think that you want to set somebody up for success. So that's where the idea came from. And Chuck said, "Oh, well, let's do a whole series on this so that other people who are going through similar situations like you are as someone new to the field maybe can pick up a few things as well from what I'm learning and from what Chuck will share." So I thought that was a great idea. And it actually also created this sort of commitment that I needed to accountability. I said I'm going to design a course.
You are such a checklist person. I can't believe you needed
Well,
that
that's
for
true. I mean, I
motivation.
already have a checklist just for this
Yeah,
session.
okay. Rest my case.
I know. I am kind of one of those, like,
Yeah,
I guess type
kinda.
A, possibly.
Is there
Maybe.
an AA? Maybe there's an
I know. I
AA.
wonder because I think that might be A plus 5. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
But
yes, it's all like
it's all there.
yeah.
The course itself is about, all right, so it's online moderator training, and it's for this particular organization, but I would like to be able to scale it to other organizations that have
hmm
online events that need moderator training as well, because I do think that although some of the ideas are tailored to this organization, these ideas, these tips, these concepts can be taught to anybody who who finds themselves becoming a moderator in an online
Yeah.
event.
And let me
And
say this before you go any further, because I think this is a key part of instructional design a lot of folks just trip over and don't think about. And when we design courses, we need to think about how we can generalize this content area past the population that we're specifically working with. And Denise, you just made the perfect point for this notion of there are probably 500 or 1,000 organizations that would love to have this course or series of courses that they could use with their populations. And one of the beauties of instructional design is you can scale these things up if you design them right the first time.
hmm absolutely. As a matter of fact, I really liked what you just said about the perfect thing. So I'm going to do this so that I can find that in this live session later on.
You just love
sort
the
of highlight
clapboard.
it and get excited. I do love the clapboard. I mean, look at this thing. This thing's awesome. Chuck
So
gave it
my
to
10
me.
years as an IATSE member paid off. My SAG after card, and I got you
Yes,
a
I feel
clapboard.
very official. It comes in handy. That's all I'm going to
Oh
say.
yeah, it's
Comes in,
perfect. I love
especially
it.
when we just record things and we're not live, and we just
And
start
how many
chuckling.
mistakes do we make?
Although we just
We
recorded a
got to do that.
session and
Yeah, we
we
didn't do
didn't have
anything. Yeah.
any
I got to say in
bloopers.
the beginning, before we got to what now we're 60 or some videos. In the beginning, it was every 2 seconds we had a blooper. And we probably, when you get time, which you never have, put together a reel of those just so people can make fun of us,
Oh
especially
my
me.
gosh. Yes, I know.
Yeah, it
That's
was,
why you got me this. You gifted this
well,
to me because the first few episodes, it was a mess. I kept
yeah.
clapping so I could find the
Well,
spot. And
you had this weird way of doing it, and I'd never done it that way because I'm used to different kinds of production. So it's cut, clap, start. You just go through the whole sequence. And I thought, okay, what can I get Denise for? What was it? Memorial Day.
yeah,
So that was your Memorial Day present, I believe. And
first time I ever received a Memorial Day present.
stay, stick
See?
with me, kid. Nothing but up from here.
So anyway, we digress. Okay, so let's get
Just
back to
slightly.
this
But we
whole.
are live. See,
We
that's
are
the
live,
beauty of it.
so that's right, and we have
Yep.
a few viewers right now.
Yeah.
Please
So
feel
folks,
free to
chat.
say hello and
Yep.
leave a
Say
comment, say
hi.
hello. We'd love to be
Yep.
able to feel like we're talking to somebody other
We
than.
want to identify you so you can be part of this embarrassment. We want you to be part of this whole scene here on instructional design from the ground up.
But no pressure. You can
No,
be anonymous too. You can stay
no,
behind the scenes. That's fine.
but we know, we
We
have
know.
sources.
That's the Sherlock Holmes in us, right? We've joked about that. So
Yeah, I
speaking
should wear my
of.
hat and get my pipe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
speaking of Sherlock Holmes, one of the first things that Chuck had me do in designing this course was to put that Sherlock Holmes hat on and dig deep into analysis and to figure out who is this population? Who are they? And of course, I gave all the, strange answers, and he said,
You
"Okay,
gave all the answers that a client gives us.
yep, let's marinate, whatever. Take
Hmm.
it, sculpt
Hmm.
it, get rid of stuff. Let's add a couple of things." And when you watch that video about the population analysis, you'll see that there's a lot to population analysis, and you really want to get that right. And that was one of my big lessons and light bulbs in this is the population analysis is crucial. And being able to figure out what are the needs, what is the actual need. And if you don't know what the need is, if you don't know the population and what their need is, what kind of course is it going to end up being? It's, yeah,
Probably the wrong course.
right, exactly. So I learned a lot through that. And through Chuck's help, I was able to come up with an analysis. And part of my design plan is that analysis. And then from there, we talked it out and we figured out, okay, it's not just one course that I'm designing here. I thought it was just going to be just one course that might be
No,
like
no, no,
4 hours long, a couple
See,
of
that's
modules.
the rookie mistake to think you
Right.
can
I
pack
thought maybe
all
that's,
of your content in. Hello,
yeah.
David. How you doing?
Hey, David. Nice to have you here.
One of my IMI ICP
Ah,
brothers.
yes. I see him on LinkedIn. I see you on LinkedIn all the time, David. I love the posts. But anyway, so what started out as, oh, Chuck, I want to make a course, turned into a course that actually has 4 different modules to it, 4 different actual segments. And because we've got technological type of, we have technological segments, we have the grooming somebody to be able to communicate as a moderator as well. And we just have these different sections that need to be fleshed out. So the
Yep.
part that I am developing currently is the one that talks about the communication aspect of being a moderator. I really want to focus in on that one first and present that to the organization because I feel like that right there is going to be something very crucial because that's where I saw a lot of the problems that the real problems that we had was with somebody not understanding because they weren't
Yep.
trained, how to actually lead participants, panelists in a discussion and not be the center of attention, because there were issues that were happening with some of the moderators wanting to actually be the center of attention. And so this training will bring people through the points of what their role is as a moderator. That needs to be deeply understood. And that was never spelled out. So I feel like that's
Right.
an important part of this training.
And that's part that the organization should be concerned about, but I bet they weren't. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yes. And I think it's because, quite honestly, they're a small organization that didn't know,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
right?
there's no expectation. And that's the thing when you're an instructional designer. You have to have a real sense of who you're working with. You have to know who this client is. You have to know their experience base with the product that you're trying to put forward. And many times their assumption base is just through the roof in terms of what they just take for granted. And what they take for granted is oftentimes the Achilles heel of them being successful. And so this is where an instructional designer is more than just designing courses. It's about working with organizations to put together a system for what they want to accomplish. So when we talk about instructional design as a system, this is part of that, this notion of, we have to be holistic about this. We have to be in there to fix and to review and to do a 360 across not just the content and the population, but the relationship between the organization and the population and the content, and make sure that everything fits together and everybody's on the same page. And this is absolutely something that happens every time to one degree or another.
Yeah. And one of the things that was really, really helpful when I was in the analysis phase, at the same time, because the organization, the event ended in July, it was done in July. So we started to do this concept, this series, I think in August. Maybe we started it in August. And that was at the point where you said, okay, we need to dig deep into what the need is. What were the challenges? What were the problems that the organization was facing that this training will address? And right at that same time, we ended up getting a survey from the attendees of the event. And as a board member, I was sent the actual raw data, the survey results. And it was eye-opening because the moderators, that was what was discussed a lot, and some of the loopholes, some of the problems. And so I was able to take that survey, those results, and see what the actual problems were from the attendee point of view, which is also important because sometimes the organization doesn't know what they don't know. And it's really, and I saw a lot, like as part of the whole process, I was taking notes, observing a lot of things that were going wrong. But I don't know if anybody else was looking at those same things. I think I was looking at it from an instructional design point of view because I kept thinking, oh my God, I need to create a training for this. I don't know that anybody else was looking at it through that same lens. People were excited to be there. It was, people looked at the amount and the quantity and the quality of the sessions. They weren't looking at from a wide angle things that can be improved upon. And
Yep.
so that survey was very, very telling. And I felt like that was a really big benefit, having that when I was analyzing the problems and challenges. And so,
Yeah. And you were surprised, probably the information you got. But what surprises me is most organizations won't do that. Most designers won't do that. They just go in and hop on it and hop off, and there's your course. And that's okay sometimes. Sometimes you need to go a little deeper. And this
yeah.
is one of those cases, especially when the first time you work with someone, the first time you work with a population, you want to make sure you really know what's going on. And I've never not been surprised by the information that I get.
And so that leads me to a question, because what happens if you're not privy to that population analysis, the details
Yeah.
that because
Yeah.
for instance, if I wasn't a board member and I didn't have the access to the survey, I was just an attendee and I said, oh, this would be a really good course to teach. And I didn't have access to all that data. And I was just relying primarily on myself. Or even worse, what if I never attended the event and somebody said to me, we need a moderator training? And then I tried to create this training based on some people's observations. But what do you do in a situation when you don't have access to somebody who can help you figure out the actual population and the needs and challenges? Because Well, let's face it, when I don't know, like I haven't done too many ISD projects at this point.
Right. Right.
I haven't been contracted for that, but that's one of my fears is the ones that
Hmm.
I have been contracted for. I've been privy to being able to have somebody help me out with understanding the population. And what if you don't have access to that? What do you do?
Well, what you find in experienced designers is that that's part of the conversation before you ever start to work.
Hmm.
And a designer is going to say, I need access, I need information. And the result of that is we say this many times in instructional design, we said it many times in the videos that we do here. If you can't get the information you need, or you have a non-cooperative or just an absentee client or group that you're working with, then you need to make it clear to them that the product they get is going to be a result of what you have. That this could be a much better product if I have this access. If you want me just to go off and produce a generic course based on what I know, then here are the things that might happen with this course. It may not hit the target accurately. I may miss the population. I may not know what information they have, and I may duplicate things early on, and I may get way too extreme way too early in terms of difficulty. If I don't have this information, then the downside for you as an organization is that I can only do what I can do. And once you have a discussion up front, then that alleviates the tension from the design perspective that, gee, I don't know how this is going to work. Well, an experienced designer, I mean, even before you would do a contract or do a bid, you would say, here are the things that I need. In the absence of these, this design may suffer in these ways. And that way, that relationship now has a place to start with that discussion. And if they decide they don't have the resources, don't want to do it, then okay, there's the best I can do for you, but don't be surprised if one of the following happens.
And
And
I
I
mean,
always do this in writing too.
that's a great point. It's all about communication,
Yep.
and with anything in life, I don't care what you're doing. It's all about communication and having this discussion up front. It's important, and I think a lot of people rush over that process.
Yeah, well,
I know.
and you can see it in the work. All right.
Yes,
And this is where a trained instructional designer, and I'll say it 1,000 times,
mhm.
when you've been trained and when you have experience, you know what the weak spots are. So it's just like if you were a jeweler or a car mechanic or a nuclear physicist, you know where the soft spots are. You don't need to ask these questions to get to these answers.
Right.
And any professional is going to know what those spots are.
Yeah.
And what you have in a non-trained, non-experienced design community is they just work with what they've got, put together a product. And to be honest, sometimes that works great. There are
Hmm.
times when you don't have to do all of these other things,
Right.
either because you're part of that organization or you have enough experience with it that you can kind of guesstimate how these things will work out. But there are times where it is critical. And I would say in most cases, most organizations will help you in any way they can. Even if they don't have resources, they will provide opportunities for you to at least have discussions with people or be part of a meeting or come to something or to attend an event where you can casually talk to people. There's lots of ways to do this.
Yeah, and they don't want to they don't want to set themselves up for failure. They want to succeed in this.
No, of course not.
They're coming to you because they need your help. And so I think that's really the important message is to present yourself as an expert. If you are
Yeah.
doing this, it's because they view you as an expert. And sometimes, well, I know like with video production, when I first started with video production and I didn't know what I was doing, it was scary, like interviewing people, not really knowing how to interview people and just kind of winging it and hoping for the best. But I remember the best advice I got from a film producer who did train me after that was you have to act the part. You cannot
Yeah.
you
Oh,
have
yeah.
to not be afraid to ask questions and tell people what you need. And so that was the biggest lesson because if you don't do that, then your job as the instructional designer, or in my case, the videographer at the time, it's going to be miserable and you're not going to get the results you want because you didn't ask
Hmm.
those questions. You were too afraid or you felt a little shy about it. You didn't have the confidence. You didn't think it was your place. And I know that a lot of us are introverted. ISD people are introverted. We talked about that.
Yeah, 70,
But
80%. Yeah.
this really is an important, I think, from what I'm learning and what I've learned from you, what I've learned from instructors, this is an important part. We have to be confident because people are relying on us to be confident, even if we're
And
not
I
feeling it.
think,
It's,
and this is where this goes even farther. So all of us have other things that we've done before we became instructional designers. I think Ashley is probably one of the few people that we have on this channel that was doing instructional design when she was 6 months old, I think. Um,
Root cause
she,
analysis.
yeah, she is the exception, my friends. All of us came from somewhere else. So my background, even as a musician and in law enforcement and community organizing and all the other myriad of things that I came to do in my career before I came to instructional design taught me that very point that you need to be confident. You need to walk in set to have discussions and make decisions and ask the right questions. And if you lack that confidence and if you lack that boldness, it's not about being cocky or anything else. It's about being professional. And professionals know what questions they need to ask. They know what information they need to have. And even though they go about it very politely and very professionally, they're not going to budge off what they need. And think about that if you go to your physician. Um, do you want to tell them the truth? Do you want to have a discussion when you don't feel well? When you go to your accountant, are you going to hide the, part of your income or something? I mean, you laugh about it, but it's the same level of professionalism in terms of creating that relationship. And I think that no matter what field you come from, you have had experience with that.
Yeah.
So when you get to be an instructional designer, don't all of a sudden decide you're going to sit in the corner and be an observer because your product will suffer from that.
Yeah, and I really think it's helpful when this has given me confidence over the years in whatever role I find myself in, because I found myself in many different types of roles where I felt incredibly out of my comfort zone. Like, what am I
Yeah,
doing here? What am I doing here?
I feel like that about twice a day. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you feel that way, the thing that same here. When you feel that way, the thing that always comes to mind is I always say to myself, I want to serve this person as best I can. And when
Exactly.
you come into there with a service oriented mindset that you really want to serve this organization, or you really want to serve this person or this need, then it takes the pressure off of yourself, because then you're focusing it on somebody else. And it's always
Yeah.
better when you focus it on somebody else. So that's the
Well,
the humanity part of, I think,
I mean,
ISD.
there's two parts of this. There are those that are there for the income, and you can make a lot of money in this business. You can make as much as you want to,
Hmm.
or you're there because you care about the end user, which is the learner and the organization. And I've chosen in my career, as whether I'm teaching or whether I'm designing, my focus is always on the end loser and the end loser, the end user. They become end losers if you're only in it for the money. If you're only in it there for whatever you get out of it intrinsically, you have to look at it in the sense of what's your motivation for doing this. And I'm not going to start being a psychologist here, but I have always believed that no matter what I did professionally, that you have to take out the personal aspects of this. And I always say in designers, you know, you don't have opinions, you don't have all these other things because your goal is to make this learner reach mastery and to make this organization the success that they want to be. And you have on occasion seen people that come into this business and all they want to do is make money. So they produce real garbage and eventually they're smelled out. I mean,
Hmm.
the smoke starts rising and it's pretty obvious what they're doing and they don't get that far. But the notion is it should be the same for anything you do professionally. And here I'm going to be philosophical, but I honestly believe this. I honestly believe you need to be making other people better. You need to be trying to create a better environment and a better world and a better place for people to work and a better place for people to learn. And that's always been my philosophy. It is always about that end user.
Hmm.
So as a designer, this carries over from any career I've had. I've always tried to hold that same theme with these things is okay, what's best for all of these people? And some people call them stakeholders. I kind of have a problem with that name, but just this notion of who are the players here? Who are the people that can benefit or perhaps could lose and not gain as much as they could? So I think that authenticity, as you start to design and as you start to look at all these things and creating that relationship, creating that space with learners and clients where you can have these discussions and you don't have a value system about it and you don't look down your nose if they don't know something or never heard of ISD or anything else. And I think it's a really important part of this. And I think what you've said just hits that right on the head.
Hmm. Speaking of communication skills and doing your best and bringing that forward, one of the things I see people struggle with, not just in ISD, but in different scenarios. I'm going to bring up my husband, for instance. Something he does, he came across a situation where an SME is really difficult to
Never
to
heard of that.
to deal with. And so, people come, and I'll not talk about his specific thing, but
Of course, of course.
when you deal with people, my question to you is, how do you deal with SMEs who think they know it all, and they're very defensive? Because even myself, I've come across people in my line of work, in the service that I've done for organizations, where you've got these SMEs, and they know it all. They do know it all. You need to
Of
know
course they
what they
do.
know, and they're very defensive about everything. Like they feel like they're being maybe attacked, or maybe they're being prodded, or
Yep.
someone's second guessing what they're doing. How
Yep.
do you deal with somebody with a personality like that as an instructional designer?
Well, this goes back to why I wrote the book on SMEs, because I
Mm-hmm.
believe there's at least 5 types of SMEs. And I usually see this in what I call sentinels. This is the group
Yes.
that are a little bit out of, how should I say, they're not current in their fields necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
They've moved on to higher roles or managerial roles, or they sit on boards, or they're in committees, or anything else. And we all know that when we did something at one point and we were pretty good at it, there's this feeling, if you allow it to exist, that you're always good at something, that you're always proficient, that you're always in tune with what's going on and the latest and the greatest. And I think probably one of the best models for this is sports and athletics. What I might be able to do at 19 or 20, I'm certainly not going to be able to do at 40, and certainly not at my age. And I think a realization of that is a theme that we as instructional designers can look at in terms of the people that are pushing back on us. And I've told some of the stories on here of people in boards that have pushed back on me. And you know what? Bring it on. I'm fine with that. If I'm not professional enough to defend my field and my personal reputation and commitment to the field and the work that I've produced, then I don't need to be in these situations anyway. And when you're talking about $1 million projects and multi-million dollar projects, multi-year, across the states, across the world, I think they have a right to have that opinion and to have that level of interaction with you to make sure that you're up to what you need to provide them. So my best work has always been first to educate SMEs on what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is my role here. I have a terminal degree. I have a master's degree. I've been doing this for X number of years. I've designed literally thousands of courses, and in many different languages, many different cultures, and many different populations. I have a world of experience that I bring to this, but I also know that your population and your group is different. They all are different. So what we will do is we will work together and we will find the best solution for your training needs. And I will be honest with you, if it's not a training need, I'm not going to have you pay for something you don't need. The first thing we'll do is determine if there's a training answer to this. And once I have the conversation with them about, I'm not here to challenge your knowledge, I'm not here to challenge your experience, I'm not here to challenge your decisions, I'm here to do my job as an instructional designer. And here's what that job is. I gather this information. I will present to you and the board my findings from analysis. I will present to you and the board my design plan about where I think we should take this. You will, at every avenue on this street, every intersection, be able to say, okay, let's talk about this. Tell me why you came to this decision. Tell me why you didn't do it this way. And every step of this will be a discussion. It's not Chuck deciding. It's not you deciding, frankly. It's about me being a professional in my field and sharing that information and expertise with you.
Mm-hmm. Making
And
them a
I've
part of the
yet to,
process.
well, you have to.
Yeah.
If you try to exclude them, what are they going to do? Oh, Chuck,
Rebel.
you think you're smarter than us? Okay, buddy, go design. Yeah, come on, you can't do that.
No.
Professionals don't do that. You
Mm-hmm.
create community, just like I do in a classroom or online. I create community. So when I'm working with boards, I create a community within the board. When I'm working with subject matter experts, I create community within that group. And I make them part of the group. I educate them about what we do. I tell them what I think their role is, if they want to change that role. And the other thing that I do, which I don't think a lot of people do, but I wish they would, is you become their angel within the organization. So many times these folks are not given the time or the resources or any credit for working as a subject matter expert, working on projects, sitting on the board. And it's not unusual for me to feel very comfortable with an email or a phone call to someone about, I really appreciate what this person's doing. They're an incredibly valuable asset for this project. And I just want you to know that I feel that way. And anything you can do in terms of giving them some more time or some recognition, I think would be a really great thing to do.
Hmm.
So if you try to create castles, you lose. They will knock your silo right over. And what have you got is you stand there with all this rubble about you that you're never going to be able to rebuild. I say
Mm.
knock them over, make it a group, make it a community. And if you still have people who just don't want to play, then you have to deal with that. But that is so rare. I
Yeah.
rarely ever see that.
Yeah. That's a really good visual, the whole castle crumbling over.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if I've been
Love
doing
it.
something for 30 or 40 years, I'm sitting on top, right? I'm looking down,
Yeah.
and here comes Chuck. Gonna tell me how to design a course. Okay. Um, where's your silo? Where's your castle? Um, and that's fair. I,
Yeah.
I have enough respect for those people that say, okay, fair enough. Let me tell you what I do. Let me tell you
Because
how I work this.
because a lot of these people may have actually experienced somebody that came in and treated
Oh,
them that
sure.
way. So
Well,
maybe
they all
that's
did. Every single one of them did. And many times, and I hate to say this, but sometimes people are placed in these committees because they want to take them out of the mainstream. Let's give so and so something to do, and we get those too. It's not often, but it happens, and
yeah.
I treat them with the same respect and love that I would anybody because I appreciate that position because I've been in it sometimes too. I mean, we're
Hmm.
honest about it. We're not expecting them to be any different than we would be. We're
Right.
not expecting them to have not the same life experience and professional experience that we've had because we'd all suffered it in these situations. And I've never found a time when creating community was a bad thing to do.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a very good point. What would you say? I always like to ask like this question of people that I really admire is, what would you say is the most valuable lesson you've learned in your career as an ISD professional?
Be humble.
Yeah.
Um, Try to establish right in the very beginning that you're there to assist. You're not there to lead. You're there to make things better. You're not to make them more complicated. That we both have the same end goal, which is to provide whatever it is you need in terms of this product or that product.
Hmm.
And I always try, I mean, I never have an opinion. I never have a political opinion. I'd be suicide. Nobody should, have any opinions
No.
about
Yeah.
anything. I mean, if you do that as a designer, you might as well just pack up and get into another line of work. So, I don't talk about people in the workplace. Well, so and so is like this about that. All the internal
Yeah.
politics and games that every workplace has and every organization has. Chuck stays out of that. Chuck's, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I refuse to play games. I refuse to be involved personally. My role here is as a professional instructional designer, and that's what I'm going to do.
Hmm.
So when and I've seen so many people, they have an opinion about somebody or something, and they're done. They're absolutely done.
They've ruined their
There's nothing.
reputation.
They're gone. And no matter what they try to do after that, it's suspect, and they might put up with you if you have a contract, but you'll never come back.
Mm-mm.
And I've always found the biggest lesson I've learned professionally, not only in instructional design or anything else, is to go in humble and do the best you can and create community around yourself and your project so that you all work together. And I think if you can do that, you're going to have success. And some people may be looking at this and say, Chuck, you're dreaming. Well, no, Chuck's done it. And that's always been the focus of my work is trying to make everybody better and try to involve everybody to the degree that I can. Yes, you have outliers that will never participate and have issues and you can't fix those. But for the most part, you can create some pretty fantastic energy within a community.
Mm. That's a really great outlook, way to approach it, and I will take that advice to heart.
But
And
I don't think you need that, Denise. You're a community organizer too, in the sense that you want everybody to be successful.
yeah.
And I remember so many times Dr. Cook saying this. My biggest thing in life and with this program when he had the ISD Master's program was I want every student to be successful. I want them every day to have a success. And look what he created. what an incredible group of alums out of that program that have gone on to do just fantastic things in this field.
Yeah, amazing alums. Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have two of them that join us for our live sessions, Ashley and Mika.
Yeah. And they
Amazing.
allow me to be an alum. I think they ought to take my alum card away sometimes. But, it's just this notion of when you have a program director who's only interested in make people together to make them successful, to give them a victory in their life, and he's doing this at a program level and teaching people. I mean, what's better than that? I don't know what it would be.
Absolutely. Gosh, I wish I was in the program when he was in the program, teaching in the
Oh,
program too. But I was, really glad. I'm really glad, of course, that
yeah. Well, I mean, at
had
first
you.
graduate program at ISD is in instructional design. Now think about that for a minute.
Oh,
In 1968, and that was still his philosophy then, being the first. I mean, you could have been a braggart, you could have been a show off, you could have been a look what I did, I'm the first. Those words never left his mouth. It was always about the students and making them better.
yeah, absolutely. So, Chuck, we're closing in at 35 past the hour. And
Okay, so are
any
are we done? Are we?
any more comments you have? Anything else you want to sort of dig
No,
apart?
no. I think for those watching, we have some pretty exciting stuff coming up in our live sessions. So Miko and Ashley will be back on a regular basis, and they, of course, make me look incredibly wonderful. And Denise always wonderful, so we don't worry about that. But we have some exciting things coming up, and we realize our viewership is not, what you see on YouTube with some of these channels. We're starting slow and steady, and we're climbing uphill, and we're making some progress. But I really do think it's important for people to appreciate that this is not monetized. This is not a Patreon effort. We have lost money. I can assure you, we've lost money on this effort, and
All this equipment to make us
all
look
this
like we're
time,
in
yeah,
focus.
to make us look like network news. And that clapboard was $7,000. I didn't tell you, Denise. It was just
Yeah, I
I had
mean,
to
this
sell one of the
thing,
cars.
it's
Yeah, no,
got,
I'd sell it. Second mortgage and sell the car. So I hope you like it. But so I want people to know and appreciate this channel is about you. It's about people that want to be instructional designers. It's about people that are instructional designers. And no matter what level you're at, or no matter what your interests, this is about providing a safe spot for you, providing conversation for you, providing things to think about. And the more that you can participate and support us by being part of this, and in no other way but being part of it, we do appreciate that. And we hope you will join us in these efforts.
yes, thank you so much for tuning in with us. And be sure to check out our other live sessions that are on our channel. They're all on there. Check them out. They're just filled with like amazing things with our guests. And it's
Yeah,
just, yeah, please feel free to
terrific people.
comment and get involved. We'd love for you to do that. Take care.